Creeps, it's Cameron again, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about books, movies, writing, and all things spooky. On this episode of Library Macabre, I'm going to be hauling more books. Alright, so like I said in part 1 of this haul, I'm going to show you all of the vintage horror paperbacks that I've bought in the past 2.5 months. All of the ones that I'm going to show you first were all purchased from my friend David Dodd. He had a whole bunch of books that he was replacing with other books, so he wanted to get rid of his duplicates, and I bought the majority of them. Most of these are really good reading copies, but there are a couple of books that are in great condition. So the first one is Snowman. This is by Norman Bogner, and this was published by Dell in 1978, and this is in really nice shape. Like, there's no spine creases or anything. There's just a little bit of water damage at the top here, but it's not that bad. And then we have the one that I was most excited to get. This is Treehouse, and this is by Victor Mullen. This was published by Zebra in 1989. And as you can see there, it's got the nice die-cut cover. Great condition. There's like hardly any wear on this book. This is one that I've been wanting to get for so long, and it's so expensive online. I believe he sold this to me for like next to nothing. So thank you, David. I also bought from him When We Dead Awaken. And this is also in really nice shape. I don't know what this is about, but it looks really cool. And then also here is a book in the Bloodlust series. This one is called Gorgeous by Michael Bates. I've never heard of this series before. It's a young adult series, so I'm surprised I've not heard of it. And then here is Inheritance. This is by Owen Brooks. This is another one with a good cover inlay there. And this one's also in great shape. Actually, this whole first stack is in really nice shape. This one is called Stage Fright. It's by Claire McNally. This one's another one with a die-cut cover. Usually the interior artwork is a little better, but this is a really cheesy photograph. And then here is Mantis, and this is by E.B. Stambog. This is a UK paperback published by Futura, and this was published in 1989. So that looks really cool. And then next up we have this one, which is called The Moon Lamp. It is by Mark Smith. It's a very shiny cover. This one's in pretty nice shape. It's not too bad. This one was published in 1977 by Avon, though it was originally published in 1976. So there's probably a hardcover of this one available. And then we have a very rare book that I've been wanting for a very long time. This is called Phobia, and it is by Thomas Luke, aka Graham Masterton. This one is a good reading copy, but I don't know, the odds of me getting a really nice copy of this book are probably pretty slim. And this was based off of the screenplay for the movie, which I've never seen. I'll have to check that out. But yeah, loving the cover art on that one. And then here we have Gotha Falls, which is by Frank De Filita, who wrote Audrey Rose. I actually do have a hardcover of this one, but this paperback is so cool. Look at that artwork. And then here we have Blood Moon, and this is by Leslie Horvitz. And this, I assumed, was going to be maybe about a creepy house, or possibly a haunted lake. A purple haunted lake, if you want to get very specific. But no, this is actually about the plague. So I'm guessing kind of inspired by The Stand, possibly. But the cover art is what really drew me to it. That looks so cool. And next we have a couple of Ruby Jean Jensen books. This one here, Home Sweet Home, I already own a copy of this, but it's in great shape. It's like brand new, and I'm terrified to read it because I'm worried something's going to happen to it. So he had this really beat up copy for sale, so I got this one to use as a reading copy. Once I read this, I'll probably pass it on to somebody else. And then this one is Mama, which I did not own a copy of, but this is a good reading copy. So I want to read that very soon. And this is another one that's super beat up, so it'll make for a good reading copy. This is called Bleeder by Jean Lazerda. And this is published by, I don't know how to pronounce most of these names. This is published by Diamond in 1991. And then here we have The Sindai by William Woolfolk. And I do own a really nice copy of this one. So this is another reading copy duplicate. Same goes for this one. Here is The Everlasting by Leonard Bishop. Another reading copy, so that way I don't mess up my really nice copy. And then here is a horror anthology called Horror Hunters. It's really beat up, but he pretty much threw it in for free, so that looks cool. Here is The Dogs. This is by Robert Calder, and this was published by Dell in 1976. Another very rare book. This is Incubus by Ray Russell. I've heard a lot of things about this one. It was also turned into a movie in the 80s. Very, very rare book. Don't come across this one very often, so I was really thankful that David was selling this one to me. It's in okay shape. It's a little beat up, but it's not too bad. Next is The Wereling by David Robbins, another very rare book. I have most of David Robbins' books. And then yet another very rare book. Here is Pleasant Dreams. This is by Robert Bloch. It's one of his short story collections. Love the cover on that. So cool. Here's Incarnate by Ramsey Campbell. Love the cover. I love the googly eyes peeking out of the windows of the house. It's really cool. And this one's in very nice shape. Just like one spine crease and a little bit of wear around the edges, but pretty good. So next we have a couple of movie tie-in books / novelizations. So there's the novelization of It's Alive, based off of the Larry Cohen film, which is one of my favorites. And then here is The Fog, of course, which is based off the movie by John Carpenter, another one of my favorites. All right, and then I have another stack of books that I bought from my friend David. So here is The Undead by Roxanne Longstreet, and I do have a really nice copy of this one, but I bought this one just to use as a reading copy. And we also have Darkly the Thunder by William W. Johnstone, Soul Snatchers by Michael Cecil Leone. Next is Man Stopper. This is by Douglas Borton. I do have a really nice copy of this, so this will be a reading copy for me. And then we have another UK paperback edition of Rattlers by Joseph L. Gilmore. Next is a newer leisure paperback. This is called Borrowed Flesh. It's by Serafina Jerome. I think this is more of like erotic horror, which I'm not like super into, but I'm always glad to add more leisure books to my collection. Next we have Wounds by Jemiah Jefferson, which I believe this is also kind of erotic horror fiction, maybe about vampires. But yeah, it's cool. And then here we have The Landlady. This is by Constant Roche, and it is very, very beat up. There's even some water damage, but this will make for another really nice reading copy. The Spirit Stalker by Nina Romberg. This is a pinnacle book. Then next we have The Festering by Guyan Smith. I don't own very many Guyan Smith books, so I'm always excited to add more of his books to my collection. Another Ruby Jean Jensen book. This is The Lake. It's published by Tor in 1983. It's one of her earlier books. Very rare. It's in great shape. It's like perfect. So thank you, David, for hooking me up with this one. I also have a copy of Slime by John Halkin. Just look at that cover. The UK had the best covers. So good. The Beckoning by Josh Webster. This was published by Dell. This is also in really nice condition. It's pretty much brand new. Ambrosial Flesh. This is by Mary Ann Mitchell. And the last book that I bought from David Dodd was Captain Quad. This is by Sean Costello. I believe I have most of his books now. I might be missing a couple. All right, and then here are some horror paperbacks that I did not buy from him. These were actually bought on eBay or bought from secondhand bookstores or thrift stores. I got these off of eBay UK. The first one here is Croc, which is by David James. I love that cover, and I love books about killer crocodiles. That movie Crawl that just hit theaters, loved it. It's totally my bag. I think the reason why I like crocodile and alligator movies is because I went to go see Lake Placid when I was a kid. I believe I was like 5 or 6 years old when that movie came out. My dad took me to the theater to see it, and I freaked out during that opening scene where the scuba diver is having half of his body eaten off by one of the crocodiles. Freaked me out, and we had to leave so I could go watch Muppets in Space instead. But after all of that happened, I could not stop thinking about Lake Placid, and I wanted to watch it again so that way I could try to get through it. And eventually I did, and it's one of my favorite movies now, and I find it absolutely hilarious. But ever since then, I love movies with giant crocodiles and alligators. So yeah, there's Croc, and then here we have Killer Croc, which is by Graham Webb. And then I went to Murphy's Books, which is in Dayton, Ohio, and I found a couple of horror paperbacks. The first one here is called The Harvest. This is by Scott Nicholson. And then the novelization of David Cronenberg's Scanners. And then I also found a copy of Carnivore by Lee Clark, just hiding amongst the shelves. I was very happy to find this because it's a very rare book. And then I was at Dark Star Books, which is in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and I found a couple of horror paperbacks. This one here is called Deliver Us from Evil, which is by Alan Lee Harris. It's in super nice shape. As well as Somebody Come and Play, which is by Claire McNally. And this one is also like brand new. So I got those from Dark Star Books, as well as both of these Fangoria magazines. Here we have issue number 77, featuring Freddy on the cover there from Nightmare 4. And then Tales from the Crypt, which has the Killer Santa Claus from the episode And All Through the House, which is one of my favorite episodes of Tales from the Crypt. So I had to get this one. These were like $10 each, I think, so not too bad. And then on a Facebook group, I bought Ghosts and Things, which is just an old anthology of ghost stories. All right, and then one day I got an email from a viewer of this channel. His name is Troy. Hi, Troy. He was very kind and offered to send me this holy grail right here. This is called Crooked Tree. It's by Robert C. Wilson. And this one is in fantastic condition. And as you can see, there's the step back artwork. So cool. I am so happy to have a nice copy of this to add to my collection. I do have the hardcover, which is a really boring cover. It's just like very brown and washed out looking, but this is amazing. So thank you, Troy. Thank you so much. Okay, and I think I'm going to end part 2 right here. I'm just going to keep this one shorter because I have a ton of other vintage horror paperbacks that'll come in the next video. I hit up a huge sale where they sold me all of their horror paperbacks for $1 each. So I will show those in the next one. So I will see you there. Later, creeps. Hey creeps, thank you again for visiting my channel and for subscribing. If you would like to see more, I am on Twitter and Instagram at BookMovieGuy. I am also the co-creator of the Library Macabre Books Facebook page. Also, I am a horror author, so if you would like to read any of my work or check out any of the pages that I mentioned, I will leave the links down below in the graveyard. And lastly, I am on Patreon, so I wanted to use this time to extend a very warm thank you to all of these awesome creeps over here. Those are all of my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to say thank you so much, guys, and stay spooky.